Hello everyone, welcome back to SwarajyChemistry channel. Gender is not something we are born with, it is something we learn from society. Many times we hear statements like boys are good at maths and girls are good at language, or these facts are social beliefs. In today's Child Development and Pedagogy class, we will understand gender as a social construct, gender roles, gender bias and educational practice. This is a very important topic for CTET and other teaching exam. Let us first understand what is meant by gender. When we talk about gender, we are not talking about biological differences between men and women. Gender refers to the socially and culturally constructed roles, responsibilities, behaviors, and expectations that society assigns to men and women. In simple words, gender tells us how society expects boys and girls to behave, what roles they should play, and what work they should do. That's why we say gender is different from sex. Sex is biological, but gender is learned through society and culture. For example, society often says cooking is for girls and driving is for boys. Those rules are not decided by birth but are created by society. Therefore, gender is called a social construct. Now that we understand the meaning of gender, let us clearly see the differences between sex and gender. First, let us talk about sex. Sex is biological in nature. It is decided at the time of birth and is based on our physical and anatomical characteristics. Sex is fixed at birth and remains the same throughout life. That's why sex is considered universal and does not change from one society to another. Now let us understand gender. Gender is social and cultural in nature. It is learned through family, school, society and culture, and therefore it is changeable. Gender is based on roles, norms, values and expectations of society. That's why gender varies across different society and changes over time. So the conclusion is that sex is biological and fixed, whereas gender is social and changeable. Let me give a simple everyday example to understand this better. Cooking is a life skill, not a biological ability. There is no scientific reasons to say that women can cook. Still, in many societies, cooking is considered women work. This clearly shows that gender roles are created by society, not decided by nature. Therefore, cooking being linked to women is a social belief, not a biological fact. Now, let us understand why gender is called a social construct. Gender is not something we are born with, it is something we learn through the process of socialization. From childhood, boys and girls learn how to behave according to society's expectations. These gender roles are influenced by many social institutions such as family, school, religion, media, culture and traditions. For example, families may encourage boys to be independent and girls to be caring. Schools, textbooks and media also reinforce such ideas. Because these roles are taught by society, gender is considered as a social construct. Another important reason is that gender changes with the time and place. What is considered appropriate for men and women in one society may be different in another society. For example, in earlier, girls were discouraged for getting education. Society believed that education was not necessary for girls. But today, girls are excelling in all fields such as education, science, sports, and leadership. This change clearly shows that gender roles are society created and changeable, not biological. Therefore, gender is called a social construct because it is learned from society and changes over time. Now let us understand another important concept related to gender, that is gender roles. Gender roles refers to the socially prescribed duties, behaviors and responsibilities that society assign to men and women. These roles are not decided by biology but are created and taught by society. Traditionally, society has divided roles for men and women in a very fixed manner. Tradition roles for men. Men are often expected to be the breadwinners, the decision makers, and to be strong and assertive. Traditional roles for women. Women are usually expected to be caregivers, homemakers, and to be emotional and gentle. These expectations are called traditional gender roles. However, these roles are based on social beliefs, not on abilities. The next is impact of gender roles. The first one is it limits individual identical. Gender roles restrict individuals from exploring their true interest and talent. The second one is it reinforces inequality. They create unequal power relations between men and women in society. The third one is it creates a pressure to conform. Individuals feel pressures to behave according to society's expectations even if they don't want to. The fourth one is it affects career choices and self-confidence. Many girls hesitate to choose science or leadership roles and boys may hesitate to express emotions. Therefore, gender roles are socially constructed and often limit individual growth and equality. Gender roles should be questioned and challenged through education. Let us now discuss another very important concept, gender bias. Gender bias refers to unequal treatment or prejudice against individuals based on their gender. It means judging a person's abilities or opportunities not on merit but on whether they are male or female. Causes of gender bias. Gender bias does not appear suddenly. It develops due to several social reasons. The first one is patriarchal social structure. In a patriarchal society, men are given more power and authority, which leads to unequal treatment of women. The second one is a cultural stereotype. Society creates fixed ideas like boys are strong and girls are weak. These stereotypes promotes bias. The third one is traditional beliefs. Old beliefs about gender roles continue to influence attitudes and behaviors. The fourth one is a lack of awareness and education. When people are not aware of gender equality, bias continues without being questioned. Gender bias appeared in different forms, especially in schools and classrooms. Next, let us discuss the different forms of gender bias. The first one is stereotyping. Stereotyping means having fixed ideas about what boys and girls can and cannot do. For example, believing that boys are better at mathematics. The second one is discrimination. Discrimination means providing unequal opportunities based on gender, such as encouraging boys are more than girls. The third one is hidden curriculum. Hidden curriculum refers to the unspoken rules, attitudes, and practices in schools that promote gender bias even without formal teaching. Please remember, gender bias negatively affects learning and equality, and teachers play a key role in identifying and reducing it. Now that we understand what gender bias is, let us see how gender bias operates in educational practice. Gender bias is not only presented in society but also inside school and classrooms, often in subtle ways. First one is classroom interaction. Gender bias can be clearly seen in classroom interaction. Teachers may ask more questions to boys. Boys are often encouraged to speak, argue, and lead. Girls are expected to be quiet, obedient, and well behaved. Such practices gives boys more confidence and limit girls' participation. The second one is curriculum and textbook. Gender bias is also reflected in curriculum and textbook. Male characters are often shown as scientists, leaders, and achievers. Female characters are shown in domestic and caregiving roles. There is a lack of female role models in textbook. This creates the beliefs that important achievements are meant mainly for men. The third one is subject choice. Gender bias also influences subject choices of students. Subjects like science, mathematics, and technology are linked with boys. Subjects like language, arts, and home science are linked with the girls. This limits the student freedom to choose subject based on interest and ability. The fourth one is assessment and evaluation. Bias is also seen in assessment and evaluation. Girls are often prized for neatness, discipline, and behaviors. Boys are prized for intelligence, creativity, and problem solving. Teachers may have different expectations from boys and girls in academic performance. This affects students' self-confidence and motivation. The next is the school environment. The overall school environment can also promote gender bias. Sports facilities may be unequally provided. Leadership roles like class monitors are mostly given to boys. Dress codes may reinforce a gender stereotype. Such an environment sends unequal messages teaches to students. Gender bias in educational practice affects learning confidence and future opportunities, and teacher must consciously work to reduce it. Gender bias in school is often subtle but deeply influenced. After understanding how gender bias operates in schools, let us now see the impact of gender bias in education. Gender bias not only affects classroom learning but also has a long-term effects on students and society. The first one is low self-confidence among girls. When girls are repeatedly treated as less capable, they begin to doubt their own abilities. This results in low self-confidence and hesitation to participate. The second one is limited career choices. Gender bias restricts a student to certain careers. Girls may avoid science or leadership roles while boys may avoid arts or caregiving professions. The third one is poor academic participation. Biased classroom practices lead to less participation, especially among girls. Students may remain silent even when they know the answer. The fourth one is reinforcement of a stereotype. Gender bias strengthens stereotypes such as boys are intelligent and girls are obedient. These ideas get repeated from one generation to the next. The fifth one is a gender inequality in society. When schools reinforce a gender bias, it results in inequality in society. Please remember, education instead of reducing discrimination ends up continuing it. Therefore, gender bias in education negatively affects students' confidence, opportunities, and equality in society. After understanding the impact of gender bias, let us now discuss the role of education in reducing gender bias. Education plays a crucial role in promoting gender equality by shaping attitudes, values, and behaviors from an early age. The first, responsibilities of teacher. Teachers play the most important role in reducing gender bias in school. The first, treat boys and girls equally. Teachers should treat all students equally without any preference based on gender. The second one, encourage participation of all students. Both boys and girls should be equally encouraged to ask questions, answer, and participate in classroom activities. The third one, avoid gender stereotyped language. Teachers must avoid statements that reinforce stereotypes such as linking certain subject or behaviors to the particular gender. The fourth one, provide equal opportunities in academics and sports. All students should be given equal opportunities in academic, sports, and extracurriculum activities. The second one, gender sensitive classroom practices. Apart from attitudes, classroom practices must also be gender sensitive. The first one, mixed gender group activities. Group activities should include both boys and girls to promote cooperation and mutual respect. The second one, equal leadership roles. Leadership roles like group leaders or class monitors should be rotated among all students. The third one is inclusive examples in teaching. Teachers should use examples that show both men and women in diverse roles and professions. Fourth one is encourage girls in a STEM subject. STEM means here science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Girls should be actively encouraged to take up science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Fifth one is respect diversity and individuality. Every child should be respected for their individuality, interest, and abilities regardless of gender. Please remember, education can reduce gender bias only when teachers consciously promote equality, inclusion, and respect in the classroom. So far, we have discussed gender bias and the role of education in reducing it. First, let us understand what is the meaning of gender inclusive education. Gender inclusive education refers to an educational system that ensures equal access, equal participation, and equal achievement for all genders. It means that no student should face discrimination or exclusion because of their gender. The focus is on respect, equality, and inclusions of every learners. Features of gender inclusive education. The first one is the non-discriminatory curriculum. The curriculum should not favor one gender over another. Textbooks and content should show all genders equally in different roles and professions. The second one is gender neutral language. Teachers should use a gender neutral language such as students or learners instead of linking a task or abilities to particular gender. The third one is a safe and supportive school environment. Schools must provide a safe and respectful and supportive environment where all students feel valued and protected. The fourth one is awareness of LGBTQ plus and gender diversity. Here L means lesbian, G means gay, B means bisexual, T means transgender, Q means queer or questioning, plus means intersex or asexual. Gender inclusive education also promotes awareness and respect for gender diversity, including LGBTQ plus students. It teaches acceptance, empathy, and respect for individual differences, such as education systems helps students grow academically, emotionally, and socially without fear of discrimination. Gender inclusive education promotes equality, dignity, and respect and helps build an inclusive and just society. So far, we have understood gender bias, its impact, and the role of education in reducing it. Now, let us see the constitutional and policy support for gender equality in India, which is very important for exams. The first one is Article 14, Right to Equality. Article 14 of the Indian Constitution guarantees equality before law and equal protections of laws to all citizens, regardless of gender. The second one is Article 15, Prohibition of Discrimination. Article 15 clearly states that the state shall not discriminate against any citizen on the grounds of sex, religion, caste, or place of birth. This article directly supports gender equality. The third one is Article 21A, Right to Education. Article 21A provides the right to free and compulsory education for all children between the ages of 6 to 14 years without discrimination. The fourth one is Right to Education, RT Act 2009. The RT Act 2009 ensures free and compulsory education for all children and promotes equal access to education, especially for girls. The fifth one is the National Education Policy NEP 2020. The National Education Policy 2020 emphasizes gender equity and inclusion in education. It focuses on removing gender gaps, promoting participation of girls, and creating a safe and inclusive learning environment. Thus, the Indian Constitution and educational policies strongly support gender equality and inclusive education. Article 14, 15, and 21A form the constitutional foundation for gender equality in education. First and most important point, gender is not same as sex. Sex is biological, but gender is socially constructed and shaped by society. The second is gender roles are learned, not natural. Children learn gender roles from family, school, media, and society. The third one is school plays a crucial role. Schools can either reinforce gender bias or challenge and reduce it through inclusive practice. The fourth one is teacher attitude is very important. A teacher's behavior, language, and expectations directly influence a students' confidence and participation. Finally, equality does not mean sameness. It means providing equal opportunities to all students based on their needs and abilities. If you remember these points clearly, you can easily answer any questions from this topic. So, today we have clearly understood that gender is socially constructed, not biologically determined. We discussed gender role, gender bias in education, its impact on students, and the important roles of teachers and schools in promoting gender equality. Remember, schools can either reinforce gender bias or challenge it, and teachers' attitudes plays a crucial role. If this video is helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to SwarajyChemistry channel. See you in the next class. Thank you so much for watching this video. All the best.